crafting an ERC proposal. Okay, so one of the things that I like to start with always is to say that everything in this kind of talks is just personal opinion, and what works for me might not work for you. You can even find like within the same consortium like people that they have like really strong different personal opinions, and I mean just whatever works for you, take it, and whatever doesn't work for you, just forget about it. Also, it is important to stress that I am just a regular researcher, so I mean, my personal opinion is just that I fail like everyone else. I mean, and just I like to show like the folder of the latest, I think, latest 5 years proposals, blur it a little bit because I don't want to embarrass myself with all the calls I failed, but this is the real thing. Eh? And if I just mark like the ones I didn't get, so you get already a feeling of like, okay, so like, so like even if you're on the paper, let's say successful, and you're getting your grants and you get the funding for the lab and so on. So my feedback is the feedback of somebody that fails way more than succeeds. So just saying. But the important thing is like you have to just Sisyphus punishment. Once the ball goes down, once the stone goes down, so you have to push it up. And this is a very special case for the synergy grants, because the synergy grants, if you crunch up the numbers, resubmission of ERC grants, they tend to be very successful if you compare with other ERC schemes, right? So like basically like half of the grants have been like already resubmitted before getting funded. And then basically you can get the previous applications. They are 3 times more successful than the first time application. So basically crunching up the numbers a little bit, assuming a 10% success rate in overall. I'm doing some back of the envelope calculation. So you get that the first time submission success rate is between 3 and 6%. If you resubmit the grant, the application, so you can crunch up from 12 to 18% success rate. So this is very important for the synergy grants, and also it's actually one of the cores of the synergy grants if you compare with other ERCs. Ideas that they're good enough for an ERC synergy, they are so ambitious that they can withstand like resubmission. And I've met many cases actually, like in my near surroundings, of people that they got it at the third submission. Okay, so like, and if I compare with my previous ERC experience in individual grants, I think most of the ERCs I wrote, they could not survive to 3 resubmissions before getting like really old and kind of like starting to stink, like rotten. While ERC synergies, they are so ambitious that you can really afford like resubmitting at least once, and for sure you can, if the idea is ambitious enough, so you can afford resubmitting twice. Before starting with the advices, so like my experience is based on the old calls, okay, and I know that these upcoming calls like 2026 and so on, so they are going to have like some specific changes in the way the documents, for example, the proposal they are being written. So just to wrap up, what are the main differences? Is that in the old structure, the B1 part, the first part, included the summary, objectives, breakthrough, and so on, and the curriculum and the track record, they were split. And the B2 part already also included part of the state of the art in the full scientific proposal in these 15 pages. While in the new structure, basically the state of the art is going to be encoded here in this part 1, 5 pages. So these vision, novelty, objectives, they should include the state of the art, because then in part 2, you would like to start already with methodology, feasibility, work plan, and so on, right? So because you have like a cut from 15 to 10 pages, and then basically you have to rip off all the state-of-the-art introduction and so on, because that is already included in the B1. I've talked with some people that they complain about like this change, and they say, "Oh yeah, but now I have 15 pages to write, and it's impossible to condense everything in just 10 pages." Reality is that when you become evaluator, many proposals, the part B2, it starts exactly a copy of part B1 with this cosmetic changes. Okay, and that happens in many applications. So I think that's the reason why European Union decided, okay, so like a lot of people, they're not taking serious like the difference between part B1 and B2. Let's remove the introduction part, the state of the art and so on from the B2, and they come with this structure. Also, another change in this new call is that the CV and the track record, they're merged, and it becomes a more narrative thing instead of like quantitative number of publications and citations and so on. Okay, and those are the main, let's say, big changes. Also, to refresh a little bit, like if you're in this workshop, in this webinar today, most likely you already have gone through the guide to the applicant, so you know the evaluation process and so on, but we can refresh it a little bit. So the first step is just the part one. The old B1 is going to be evaluated by the panel members. Usually you will get, so like the panels in the ERC Synergy, they're all merged. So they are not like different panels like in the individual ERCs. So it's kind of like a multidisciplinary panel. And within this multidisciplinary panel, they will select somebody that has an expertise that matches the closest to your proposal. That will be the principal rapporteur. And then there will be another 3 panel members. They will be close to your topic, but not as close as the principal rapporteur. And basically these 4 people, they will be the ones that, just taking a look to the part 1, your track record and your CV, they will decide whether you're good enough to pass to the step 2 or not. No, and then you will get this A, B, and so on. If you get the A, you go to the step 2. If you got the B, then you get even, so you cannot pass to step 2 and you get banned for 1 year. And if I remember correctly, I mean, this is what I remember. Okay, so is if you get one of these bans, it affects 2 other ERCs as well. So you cannot, for example, you cannot get banned of the ERC Synergy and then say, oh, next year I'm going to submit my ERC consolidator and that's it. No, so you have to be careful with that. I mean, if you go for this, you go serious on this. Then step 2 is different from the individual ERCs. In the individual ERCs, there are only 2 steps. In the synergies, you get this step 2. The full proposal is sent to the external evaluators. Okay, you usually get in between like 8 and 10 external evaluators, and they get the 2 parts, the B1 and the B2. Well, now they call it part 1 and part 2, and they will evaluate the whole thing based on technical, like arguments and their technical judgment. And then the panel will get the feedback from all these external experts. These people, they're just experts on the topic, very, very close to your topic. These are not like general scientists. These people are really experts on your topic. And the panel will get all this feedback, and then they will make a short list with the proposals that they are better evaluated from these referees, and then they will start the invitations to the interviews. Usually, it depends like call to call, but the invitations to the interview, well, this is important. So timeframes. So the next call is going to be closed the 5th of November, if I remember correctly. So I assume that if you're in this webinar, it's because you're planning to prepare the next call, ERC Synergy. If you are already working on your ERC Synergy, most likely what I'm going to tell you today, I mean, I can answer some questions about the interviews and stuff like that, but I mean, I think your proposal will be pretty much cooked, okay? Or it should be, because there is not much time, and it takes a lot of time. And then once you finish the application, Then the invitation for the interviews usually happens like late June, something like that, if I remember correctly, and the interviews there in early September. So basically, you have all the summertime to work on the proposal, the interview. Okay, and the interviews, they are quite intense because they are short, and you have to, you know, combine all the things from the uh, full proposal into just 10 minutes usually, and then you have to prepare the question and answer. So we can go to that details later in the question and answers of this webinar if you want. Okay, so the way I start with my consortium, so it's slightly different than, let's say, a national grant, grant that is smaller and so on, because here is like a two-ways thing, right? So like the idea has to be like the wow idea, but you have to have the right people in order to convince that this is the wow idea. So like you will like to start working in both things in parallel. So it's not just like, okay, getting the idea and then recruiting the people. And I mean, it, as I said, so it might work for other people. In our case, it was more like we started like a group of two. So like just two PIs discussing the idea. Then we recruited another one, and then the idea changes. And then we decided, okay, so like we need another one. And like it was a process that it was kind of like recursive. Okay, because I think from only one input of only one investigator, one researcher, I think it's difficult to get this kind of like really synergetic ideas that is convincing for the panel. So I think it's a slightly different process that requires a little bit of iteration and an impossible equilibrium, an impossible balance. So from the idea point of view, but also from the consortium point of view, and also like, well, you should start calling it team instead of consortium, because this is the difference thing between a synergy and a Pathfinder or a European proposal. So this is a much more compact people working on the same idea. So I mean, like regarding the idea has to be groundbreaking, but it's still feasible. Okay. So if you read the guide for the applicant, it seems that has to be something completely new. But I mean, the evaluators will base feasibility on your previous track record. So it means that it has to be something very closely related to what you have done in the past. And one thing that I found surprising is that sometimes the criterion of the experts and the panel members might differ from what you read in the guide for applicants. Okay, so if you read the guide for applicants, might think like, okay, only like very fundamental blue sky science has to be funded in synergy grants. And then you start taking a look to proposals, and there are many proposals that they are very, very applied, and they are not like discovering any new science, any new physics. Is they're basically tackling an important society or technological challenge. And if you read the guide for applicants, it doesn't look like it. No, so it looks like, okay, it should be something very fundamental, very, very basic. So just saying, right? So that the people sitting in the panel and the external evaluators, they're scientists as we are. And if they have to give like a lot of millions to a group to do research, even if the idea is super new, so they will prefer somebody that is on the track to do this new idea, right? So then somebody that is just completely fresh in the field. From the point of view of the team, it's also an impossible equilibrium, because you want to team up with rock and roll stars, like the best scientists you can, but you want to work with people that they are committed to the project. So one of the things that you might face is that, okay, so I have like this, like super pope in the field, and it doesn't reply to the emails. So then my advice will be, don't go with that person. Okay, because you really want to work with these people, it's difficult to work with this super, let's say, high-class scientist in writing a proposal, but it's going to be even more difficult to do a real synergetic project for 6 years if the person is not reachable, is not committed. Okay. And also, like, regarding like personalities, so you want these sharks, like they are, is the idea and I defend it, and kind of like these kind of scientists, they're good to have in the team because they can defend the idea really well in the evaluation and in the interview, but but you but they have to be nice enough people to work with them. Okay. So it's a difficult balance. And some things that I discuss with people that they've been in evaluation panels of the ERC synergy is that when making the team, a lot of people have doubts about, like, okay, so I have to do the usual European Union Sudoku. So I need somebody from countries in the East, and I need, and people from panels, they say that unlike other calls in European Union, this is just excellence criterion. So no other considerations, no gender balance, no age, no geographical location, nothing. Okay, so it's just scientific excellence. If that person is the right one for the proposal, it doesn't matter. So, and also take into account that in the last calls, quite a lot of people, they have one partner from outside European Union. So you can have like one of the partners of the team being, for example, from the US, no problem. They will get the funding from the European Union. There are some rules about like which countries can and which countries cannot, but you can include at least one partner. Then the most important thing when starting to consider applying or not applying is going to the funders and tenders, although they just changed the web page and now it's a mess and I don't know how to access the information, but okay, so you have to try to access the information, download of the guide to applicants and all these things. And I found very useful for people that they get like nervous as I do reading these kind of like formal documents and I don't understand the sentences well, if it's not in all the cases or not in one of the cases, or except if I'm between this and that date and all. I always messed up with these things. You can use ChatGPT. It helps for these kind of things. So you just upload the guide for the applicants and it can help you to make, for example, a checklist of the documents that you have to submit. It can help you a lot with the eligibility criterion and so on. And I mean, it helps in reading these kind of like formal documents. And it's very important to have all this list of things crystal clear before starting to write the proposal. Okay. Especially, I think what eligibility is a must. Okay, because also there are like other incompatibilities with with other ERCs and so on. So is what I said. So if you get a B in the synergy grant, then you cannot try to apply for another ERC next year, even if it's individual. So be careful with all these things. And downloading the templates as soon as they are available. And my advice is that even if the call is still not open, so you try to use the templates from the previous call. Okay, this piece of advice, it was quite okay until now. And now as they change the templates from, like this B1, B2 to the part 1, part 2, it messed up a little bit. But it's important to start having, at least when you're starting to write, to have a framework of like the structure. So, I mean, what you need to fill in, and that is there in the templates. The templates, they will give you the skeleton of what you have to fill in, and more specifically, how long have to write. Because if you write a methodology of 15 pages and the whole part 2 is 10 pages, then you start, I mean, already that you have to start writing it down and talk to people. I mean, like when you start like already drafting the idea, and the consortium, talk to people that they pass through the process, and they will tell you whether it's worthy or not to pay the effort of starting this journey of writing the ERC synergy, because it's a lot of time commitment, the one that you will spend in this. So if you get feedback, and this is important, getting feedback from different places, because as I said, personal opinions, there are personal opinions. If you get like one and is very, let's say, out of phase with your, your feeling, then it might not be a good feedback. But if you get like many feedback from different places and all of them, they're telling you you're not ready to it, the idea is not good enough, the consortium and the team is not strong enough, so then I don't know, maybe you should reconsider spending those months that you're going to spend in writing the proposal in finding another topic for the next call. Okay, you have everything already, you talk with the colleagues, you have the idea, let's say your old folks have told you that the idea is good, so writing. Unlike the other ERCs, this is a mess because it's a collective writing. It's not like another European proposal. I've collaborated in Pathfinders. I even coordinated some unfunded Pathfinders. and in those big European proposals, usually one takes the lead and the other ones, they fill in some technicalities and that's it, right? So now here, you're going to face that if you choose the right team, everyone is going to be committed to collaborate in the writing process because they want the ideas to be shaped in the right way, okay? And then you have to find your way. Allowing everyone to write their thing and then trying to homogenize it, I don't know. So here, really the advice I can tell you is that like my personal experience was in our proposal, we had like one of the team members, a very smooth character and diplomatic, could be the one that, okay, so we wrote our stuff and the guy wanted through the text homogenizing everything in such a way that nobody felt like my opinion was not taken or something like that. And it's not an easy task, okay? And what I discussed with other colleagues is that this person is not particularly the coordinator. So like forget about the figure of coordinator in the ERC synergy because all the team members, they are all PIs, and the coordinator, the only difference it makes is that it's the person that has to communicate with the European officer whenever the grant is, the proposal is granted. And whenever you want to do some changes in the execution of the project, it has to go through the coordinator, okay? But there is no other difference. I mean, you will get individual budgets, you will have your own rights to use the budgets, and you will be considered, all of you, as principal investigators of the ERC. So, I mean, there is no importance, for example, on if this person that is going to homogenize the text is going to be the coordinator or not. In the interview, it could be a different person, let's say, acting as a moderator of the team, and not necessarily the moderator. So you have to find the right person for the right role. I mean, that's it. All right. Regarding the specifics, and this is very general, and I know because this is what we do in all the projects, okay? So like other ERCs, other European grants, even other national grants, but just, okay, so I'm just giving these general tips just in case you find them useful. So just in the part one, be super fast going to the main problem, let's say, or challenge that you're going to tackle. And you have to explain very well why your team is the right one, why the topic is timely now, so it cannot wait, let's say. And so, okay, so if everything goes fine and you get the grant, the proposal granted, and you actually do the research that you promised to, okay, what are going to be the impact or benefits, no? And I always say that it's important that this information is as appears in the proposal as fast as possible and as clear as possible to make life easy of the panel evaluator. I mean, like the panelists, I imagine always like these guys that they're in a train with so many different proposals, and they're going from Brussels to Strasbourg, I don't know, and they're evaluating the things. So life of these people are not easy. So try to make the life of these unknown evaluator panel member as easy as possible. And you can do that basically giving all the required information they need as clear as possible. Actually, I don't remember what I put here, but let's go through this. Well, this goes in line with this. So you can ask into colleagues, and actually I think like Googling on the internet, you can get this information in few minutes. I'm completely sure you can get the questions that the European Commission asked to the external evaluators, for example. Okay, so this is kind of like the typical, I don't remember if this was an ERC consolidator or something like that, but this is the questions the European Union asked us to evaluate the proposal. If you get this information in advance, so you can really, now read your proposal, you can read your part one, part two, and so on, and decide whether actually you reply to all these things, like comprehensively enough, or it was not clear enough in your proposal, right? And again, more and more feedback the moment you start writing. So this is delicate because it's not a personal grant, so you have to get access. You have to get access. No, you have to be allowed by your team members to share the information with other people. So this is very important. I mean, like you have to be confidential when people ask you to be confidential and so on. But if you're allowed to, so trying to get feedback as soon as possible from other people is very important, and especially like people that they already passed through the process and so on, they can be very helpful. And as I said, with a pinch of salt, and you take the feedback that you find useful, and you neglect the feedback that you think doesn't go in with your style, because a lot of these things, they are personal style dependent as well. And surprisingly enough, in 2025, we have to talk about the language models. I find that ChatGPT makes a good, well, ChatGPT-like language models, let's say. So use the one that is confidential enough. Some institutions, they have like agreements with Microsoft and some that they are confidential. You can also pay the license to be enterprise of ChatGPT to be confidential, so you don't share the information with OpenAI. But it works really well with the proposals to actually make a SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and so on, right? So it really makes a job easier, because at some point you're writing and discussing with the same colleagues over and over, and you don't see the flaws of your proposal, and suddenly you put it to one of these language models, and it points out to weaknesses that you didn't spot. It's surprisingly how it works, but it works. And in ERC preparations, and I mean, like in the writing process, you can get some support from consultants, but honestly, like most of the ERC proposal document, it's hardcore science. I mean, it's not like other European grants in where impact and dissemination activities and like a lot of other admin tasks are involved. In the ERC proposal, everything is basically like the real science thing, and the methodology, right? So which is like your thing. So like consultants here, I don't know if they are so useful. While preparing the interview, you might use consultants, coaches, gurus sometimes, with a pinch of salt. I mean, like I went to many of these preparation activities to prepare to the interviews. So, by the way, I got the ERC synergy the second time I submitted. So I went 2 times to the interview, and I passed through the process of preparing the interview 2 times. I get the feeling that some of these coaches, basically, they make their living out of making us believing that they are extremely necessary, that if we don't go to their consultancy or coaching or wherever, so we are not going to get the ERC. And some of the feedback, honestly, I think it doesn't really, let's say, it doesn't really match with how the interview dynamics works. Okay, so just saying, it's good to go. So like there are many universities and agencies and so on that they have these preparation days, and they're fully paid already, so you don't have to pay anything. And I think it's good to get feedback from different angles. But if you are there and some of the things that you're listening is like, it really doesn't resonate with the way I want to do it, my advice is most likely you're right. Okay. And coming to the end, I tried, didn't make it, so what's next? And you know what is next. You don't freak out, and you resubmit, okay? And very important is that if you go to the interview and you don't get it, you're going to get the feedback of the panel members and also the feedback of all these 8 to 10 external reviewers that they are really matching their expertise with your proposal. Okay, so try to be objective. I mean, nobody is your, hidden enemy that it doesn't want you to get the ERC or wherever. So simply the competition is, I mean, there are so many good proposals and teams that maybe you were just unlucky of competing with somebody that was slightly better than you, right? So that is most likely what happened. So just take as much as you can from this feedback and improve the proposal, because remember that a resubmission in this ERC Synergy grant is normal, and success rate increases a lot in resubmission. But be aware that you will get the feedback. So if you go to the interview and you don't get it, you will get the feedback basically 1 month before the closing the deadline of the next call. Okay, so you will have only 1 month to do the changes that you require, and that is very challenging. Okay, so it happened to us while we were resubmitting, and basically the feedback that we got, it was basically the proposal, the team, everything great, but we don't understand why you did this proposal with 3 team members. If you will have included a 4th team member with this expertise, it will be perfect. And then in 1 month, we had to find like somebody willing to work under pressure for 4 weeks, meetings and meetings and meetings, to get it done on time. Okay, so it was not easy because of this short turnaround time. Okay, and I think that is all.